Hey there, fellow history buffs. Ever heard that creepy story about the haunted crossroads where a deal with the devil goes down? Or the one about the ghostly hitchhiker who vanishes into thin air, leaving a sulfurous smell? We humans have always been fascinated by stories of the underworld, and today we're taking a trip through some of the most bizarre and terrifying depictions of hell from across cultures. Get ready, it's gonna get weird. So, why are we so obsessed with the idea of hell? From ancient Egyptian murals to medieval European paintings, almost every culture has its own unique vision of the underworld. Is it a fear of punishment, a morbid curiosity, a way to make sense of the unknown? Well, get this. The afterlife isn't always all fluffy clouds and pearly gates. In fact, some versions of hell are a lot stranger than you might think. We're not just talking about fire and brimstone. Some hells are cold, others are bureaucratic nightmares, and some, well, let's just say they're very creative with their punishments. So, buckle up, because we're about to dive headfirst into the truly bizarre. In this video, we're not just looking at the usual fire and brimstone, though there will be some of that. We're going beyond the typical depictions of hell to explore the unusual, the often overlooked, and the downright strange details. Ever heard of the monstrous Nagoda beings from Jainism? What about the meticulously detailed bureaucracy of the Chinese underworld Diyu? Today, we're going to unveil the weirdest stuff from these hells and more. Trust me, it's a trip. So, if you think you know all there is to know about hell, think again. This isn't your grandma's Sunday school lesson. We're peeling back the layers of history and exploring hells from all corners of the world, from the chilly, isolating void of the Welsh Uffern to the torturous 9-level journey of the Aztec Mictlan. It's a wild ride, so get ready to expand your mind and maybe lose a little sleep as we journey through the bizarre side of history's hells. First up, we have Jainism and its unique take on hell, Naraka. Now, Jainism sees karma a little differently. It's not just good vibes or bad vibes, but actual particles that cling to your soul. Think of it like cosmic glitter, the bad kind. It weighs you down, affecting your afterlife. Kind of like how bad parking karma guarantees you'll come back to a parking ticket. Or worse. Naraka isn't just one big pit of despair. Oh no, it's far more organized than that. We're talking 7 levels, each one worse than the last. Like a terrifying VIP section, but you definitely don't want to be on the list. The further down you go, the worse it gets. Starting with mild discomfort. Imagine being stuck in traffic forever, all the way to torments that, well, they are pretty hard to wrap your head around. And who are these lovely residents making all the screaming sound you may hear? Meet the Nagodas. These aren't your typical demons. They are hell's homegrown horrors and have monstrous forms and endure sufferings perfectly tailored to their past karma. What you reap, you sow, right? So their looks really depend on what they did when they were still walking among us. There are tons of illustrations for this, and each look different, and some, honestly, just look really unfortunate. And just how long are you serving hard time down there? Well, grab a calendar. The timescale here is mind-blowing. Kodakoti, we're talking trillions of years. Like the total amount of water drops to be in our ocean times longer than water droplets, you might think. Or, actually, there isn't really any easy way to represent these measurements. The takeaway here, the important lesson in case anyone feels anxious about how heavy their bad karma luggage weighs down on them now. Eventually, all things come to an end, even time in hell. A welcome ray of sunshine from this version, don't you think? And no, artists did not miss out of the chance to take their brush at representing this crazy concept either. Some artists even made real sculptures representing those levels, punishments, and let's take another look at those fascinating illustrations representing some poor choice that led to, well, some very unfortunate outcomes. Next, let's check out the Buddhist version of hell. Buddhism features not 1, not 7, but 8 hot Narakas. These aren't your run-of-the-mill hells. They have specific tortures catered to, well, let's just say the cosmic justice system can be pretty creative. The punishments get progressively worse, kind of like levels in a video game, except losing means way more than starting over. But the real all-star, or rather, the place no one wants to visit, even for a nanosecond in their present life, is Avīci. This isn't your average hotspot. Avīci is the ultimate no vacancy sign, a realm of never-ending torment where pain is the only constant. It's the bottom of the barrel. Nay, let me correct myself. Right here. It's even a few miles further down the underworld, even further away of wherever a hell's bottom of the barrel you might imagine could ever possibly be. But beyond physical torture, the suffering here encompasses absolute mental anguish and eternal despair, making it worse. Wouldn't you agree? Now, we've learned so far thanks to all kinds of historical data from so many sources, and there aren't tons of other interesting tidbits or art pieces or sculptures showing various representation related to it. I say thanks historical facts from every culture for being useful, but as far as scaring kids for whatever useful parenting, educational purpose, or whatever religious educational use for the masses. You know, keeping the control narrative through stories where going against societal norms just has hell to pay types of deal. Anyway, enough conspiracy thinking here. Artists represented all those cool details thanks to a type of paintings called thankas. Let's check a few out. From woodblock prints to modern art, Shinto stories are still around. No offense. Digitalization efforts. I admire that. But you could try to look and sound like that. Those artists got serious talent, man, and like real, almost unimaginable. But you guys do your digital thing in tribute as sort of like passing it along for 1,000 or so additional generations, if anything. Because even if those awesome art styles of today's and like super recently improved digital visual art were all so amazing, if you haven't paid full attention when visiting galleries or at the theater, or at the very least, from any video games that are pushing that barrier with no hesitation, you all still have yet to prove just what lengths will digital tech go. And I, for one, sure as hell want a time machine ticket to transport me and like witness those improvements. No time travel logic paradoxes intended here. I want to experience firsthand if my digitally preserved renderings will get up and tell a story too. Alright, history fans, let's hop over to ancient Greece, where things get, shall we say, complicated. Meet Tartarus. It's a god. No. Wait. It's a place. No. I know. Okay. So Tartarus is both, actually. This primordial deity and a place deep, deep in the underworld adds a whole other layer of fear to the whole Greek mythology gig. Being born of chaos himself already seems kind of unlucky to me, but what do I know? He also sounds kind of interesting, as both of these things, right? Well, that also got Greeks thinking, as they usually did quite a lot if historical recounts hold true. So, for all things deep in chaotic order of a complex, spiritual, mystical, sort of religious type thing, they named one to hold every mysterious idea into: genius. You know how your elders talked about cleaning up or getting whatever done, 'cause they won't find it down there when sent out, or how I ain't looking into whatever the request would have been, because finding any of that would require them having to dig into something equivalent to hell, for how difficult the chore would have appeared. For whatever made up metaphorical, whatever use, or whatever chores that story involved, the moral was hell isn't easy. So it was with those kinds of anecdotes passed on for generation over generations, stories, if anything, of an impossible to reach, hidden away at great difficulty sort of concept for Tartarus to represent how really hard the underworld, whatever its significance to them, could have represented. So who better to look into this chaotic hidden away secret than that one family member tasked with getting stuff from the very depths of storage places wherever a home-related impossible chore needed tackling, wouldn't you say? Hubris, that excessive pride stuff Greeks warned everyone about constantly, had one place it did lead everyone when acted upon without thought. Don't anger the gods and overstep human boundaries, else it will cost. There are statues all over that just warn about that one single thing constantly in almost an infinity of interpretations. Now, let's head over to China, where the afterlife gets a bit organized. Forget fire and brimstone. Diyu is all about paperwork, red tape, and bureaucratic nightmares. Think of it as the DMV of the underworld, but with way worse wait times. Forever, actually. And punishments that are definitely not by the book. So don't quote whatever hell's regulation pamphlet. Now here. Demons wear suits. If visuals shown during my narration for any social video where showing suits makes sense, which should match whatever was going on back in hell in whatever its official day-to-day representation, wherever artists render Diyu, then those demon office workers rocking a necktie won't ever look dull in that suit. Diyu has a strict hierarchy, not the fire and brimstone free-for-all like many a hell from every religious beliefs everywhere, but 10 courts, each one with a scary judge in charge. Who doesn't like an angry boss, eh? No wonder mortals thought these stories were frightening, I know. And below those courts, where suffering just takes 18 levels of escalating torments. Oh, by escalating torture, I don't just mean just spicing hell's fiery lake. Nah, it actually scales like for what crime a particular being went and did to another, and I sure as hell bet these levels really gave every Chinese local, everywhere, plenty good reasons to act friendly. Presiding over it all, well, it just seems like King Yama really does fit his role perfectly. Stern face and really grumpy mood, I kid. You can tell from paintings depicting every little bit about the story in really vivid descriptions. So much so, no local could ignore, and artists are probably one big contributing reason, if any, so many Chinese believed whatever the law suggested, cause not just were those painted scenes really graphic, so did whatever King Yama rocked during posing duty really appear just scary. And as it turned out, as ruler, if I were some soul judged, like after my soul passing, for just whatever actions I'd gotten my judgment to, dude scares me. Even demons got bosses. The underworld's very own IRS. Yep. It audits every deed done, whether a thought, deed, any act recorded no matter what, which gave every devout something extra to worry or rejoice at. Just another case where those artists painting or sculpting were worth the asking price. A whole lot from every religion, China really made its very own cool hell. From the heat of Diyu, it's nothing a small stroll wouldn't fix, eh? We're going north now because time has come for checking out another part of town with those old Welsh locales, with another kind of party pooper, with our next hell destination known as Uffern, where isolation means forever ice and a total downer compared to brimstones and what makes hell usually hot. Forget physical torment. Isolation is hell, and just how it worked way back whenever these beliefs got locals chattering non-stop, and how isolated forever really seemed awful. For reasons similar with some party poopers, always harshing a vibe by showing uninvited at an exclusive special time. So sure, being ostracized did have serious impact, which does really kind of make Uffern hell by being such a terrible deterrent. Isolated Uffern forever isn't what all ended, condemned, so fret not anxious friend. Hope lingers with whatever valiant enough acts by any bold hero, strong enough, and what they need to display. And if I had a faint music of sorts to really play during narration over just displaying or showing visuals or scenes that are as hopeful, or where hope or an overcoming act or scene is occurring, just would play, right as the audio element playing that can inspire the hero vibe by really showcasing some great achievement that totally exemplifies and shows just how epic those Celtic gatherings were. Those old Celtic patterns, man so scary, eh? But not really, or were they? Not like scary, more than like isolated or alone, is what every swirl and spiral represents, reflecting, like the ancient ruins, how every belief the Celts placed on that scary Welsh afterlife. As skeletal-looking gods and goddesses, the rulers of that Aztec trip to the great beyond certainly were one stylish couple, eh? The artist's details describing and sketching them did put much thought into how they must have appeared, or at least were instructed with utmost care, if anything. We will have a separate video on this topic. For now, stay tuned. So, what have we learned from our whirlwind tour of the world's hells? Well, one thing is for sure. The idea of punishment in the afterlife is a pretty common theme. Across cultures, there's this belief that our actions in this life have consequences in the next. And as we can see, there's a wild variation of those reprisals. But here's the twist. Even with all this common theme, some aspects specific to any culture, hell becomes all the more richer with concepts only those few can imagine from what really defines who they are and why. There isn't another concept, or at least belief, of law that reflects it better when showing just what distinguishes cultures or people based on whatever beliefs or traditions are valued than each individual culture's idea of the underworld. Wouldn't you agree? As such, just the depiction alone reflects every valued aspect. Take Naraka and its Nagoda from Jainism, for instance. Now the one specific, and not every soul getting some post-mortem retribution in whatever afterlife Jainism beliefs will get such creative punishments. Beyond the punishments themselves, ideas about justice, the soul, some way by heart, but the whole scales thing really symbolizes any view on it with more obvious iconography. Then, if some have an actual moral guide for whatever they use it to check, let's have some cool representation of the different instruments. From each moral compass model, whatever cultures use, I mean just what are the tools for whatever they were doing in each specific civilization during their heydays, whenever defining concepts based on their views for beliefs like ethics, righteousness. Some beliefs might place faith higher, so whatever shows it, just place the symbol. Those would be cool symbols for each to better compare those two. Right there on this comparing hell infographic chart, which, to reiterate the aim, should showcase and represent beliefs about right versus wrong wherever possible. But let me leave you with a chilling, important question. Not the spooky intro from this cool episode opener with views into views I hope gets so viral you'll all follow. But yeah, a really existential type closing thought. Which of those do really keep you up at night and why? Share your worst nightmares. Hit me below with it. Your reasons. What frightens you most? I'm genuinely curious, so asking. Here's a handy visual guide comparing all the hells. Now, does having to watch and follow forever feel that daunting a prospect given all the alternatives depicted? Truly insightful, if anything. Wow, what a journey, right? We've explored hells of fire, ice, endless bureaucracy, and even some with really weird creatures. It's amazing how different cultures envision the afterlife, isn't it? So, what did you think? Which hell surprised you the most? Which one would you definitely want to avoid? Let me know in the comments. I love reading your thoughts and getting spooked right there alongside. Plus, every great discussions those answers do elicit. Plus, just chatting away feels great, but leaving aside all the monsters, fire, or paperwork of the spiritual sort. Exploring these versions of hell makes you wonder, well, me for one, and as your trusty hell's navigator, what does humanity seek through it? If each hell from every explored culture and every belief ever detailed has reflected those hopes or beliefs, what was it, and is our hell not an attempt at reaching it now? Wouldn't you say? But now, time for that popularity test. Which hell did really terrify you the most? And one last creepy question. If every hell from the beginning of time to all eternity, nay, even way longer, if even imagining eternity appears impossible, were like the start-end date span for each afterlife, or if not, an infinite number, forever extending as vast and beyond, forever counting all. Well then, imagine eternity multiplied forever. So like infinite vast concepts, all over then, even among infinite other representations, from all our ideas that we are humans, that may hope and that can represent each by ideas such as thoughts, if even ideas may not encompass all, whatever encompasses all. So, the whole lot I gather to finish here with just asking each viewer, you. So dear viewer, as I must have been saying, just to ensure viewer engagement for views to keep on counting well, imagine, share with our audience, us, your hell, and every bit describing those details, because we are all ever so slightly morbidly interested about that hell, our community. As always, thanks for watching and supporting.